Good afternoon, Mel.
Good afternoon.
Mel, looking back over the season, it was a good start, but broken down into thirds, it shows a fairly even performance across all three. But when we look at it as quarters, the second quarter, we only take 8 points from 10, and that reveals itself coinciding with the run of injuries where we dropped down the table, although we were still hard to beat with, I think, 33% of our matches being drawn over the season. That period, November up to the new year, was that probably the most challenging part of the season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all challenging. You know, from when you first start, you get all the players in, and again, particularly at sort of the non-league level, a lot of them on contract. You don't know who's going to come back, who isn't. Players that you're trying to sign, they've got other options on the table, and even once they've signed the non-contract, 7 days coming for them, they can leave. So from day one, it's a tough ask, and the lads came in and did well. We started early in June, the voluntary sessions for the players to start to get their kicking muscles back into the flow of get the game and everything before we start pre-season. A lot came in, and it started very, very well. Like you said, we hit the ground running. We scored a lot of goals, didn't concede many, and it was working well. We then got the injuries, and a slightly different stat was when I looked at our games, first sort of 12 games, we were scoring 1.75 goals a game and only conceding 1.4 a game. So we were well up and going very, very well. You know, the second group, the second lot of games, which you referred to as the second quarter, we dropped to 1.3 scoring and conceding 2.25, and it's no coincidence that the players injured were predominantly defenders. So you lose your two centre halves, you lose your left back long term, and it's going to affect us. You know, we're not a big squad, and so that was very, very tough. We had one or two young lads came in and did well, but they did well. But part of their progression was good for them, but opposition took advantage. You know, they know the weakness, they played on us, they worked it out, and you know, these young lads, it takes time for them to develop. We would have played them the odd game, and we were forced to play them every game. And so yeah, the second quarter was very, very tough. Like I said, when you're looking at your bench and really you've got very little you can change. You know, the one thing we've been very, very good at, particularly at the start of the season, as the season went on, other than that period, was you look at your bench and I'm thinking, right, I can do this, I can do this, and I can do that. And, you know, I've got lots of options. During that spell, we were looking at the bench, and the reality was we played Ramsgate away and had 3 players on there who shouldn't have even been on the bench. You know, they were all carrying injuries and should not have even been on the bench, but we put them on the bench just because we needed it in case of emergencies, and 2 of them came on, and it's sort of, unfortunately for Cheshunt, that was the end of him. It was nothing to do. We had to play him, but he did his best for us, but didn't work out. Matty Firmino, again, he came on and his Achilles got sore, so we lost him as well. So we went into games with a lot of injuries, and it was a tough time. And I think the Potters Bar game on Boxing Day, I think it was, or day after Boxing Day, that was sort of the time that I looked at it and thought, right, we just can't go on like this. You know, we've got to go back to square one. We've got to become very, very difficult to beat. We've got to go narrow, go tight, get the distances right, and focus on not getting beat more than trying to win the game, not get beat. And that's what we did. And we saw an upturn of results from there.
And I'm sure it's coincidence, but when I look at all the numbers, and in particular the goals we concede and the goals we score and when we score them and when we concede them, it seems to have a similar pattern to matches. We start brightly, the other team come back at us, then we start holding our own for a bit, we have a bit of a flourish towards the end, and then fade away, and we've conceded quite a few late goals. The season seems to have gone the same way a little bit, and like I say, I'm sure it's a coincidence, but are these phases to be expected, or are they things that we can iron out and perhaps get some more consistency?
I think when you look at data, it depends how you want to interpret data. You know, most people look at data, and if you ask most fans how you did today, they'll judge you on how long you had the ball, how many shots you had a goal. Not particularly on target, but just how many shots you had and how long you had the ball. That's how they tend to judge it. So the momentum changed in games. If you start one and score and go 1-0 up, the opposition will change. They'll take more risks, they'll gamble, they'll do different things, and you've got to cope and deal with that. And you may have the ball a bit less. It's very, very difficult at this level to completely control a game with the ball, because, no disrespect to the players, they're not capable of retaining the ball for 90 minutes. You know, that's why Man Cities of the world pay millions and millions and millions, because those boys are. So when you look at it, again, it's how you judge it. We played a game here last season where first half was relatively stalemate, but we controlled it without the ball. The opposition were a good team with the ball. We knew that. We let them have the ball. We let them play around us. They couldn't hurt us. We came out second half, got a goal, won the game. And people kept saying to me, the second half was so much better than the first half. Well, actually it wasn't. The first half was the best half because we controlled the game without the ball.
You talk about this controlling the game without the ball sometimes on your Thursday evening sessions.
Yeah, it's because it's what players have to understand. You know, it's not just what... A player has the ball on average for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes a game. What does he do for the other 87, 88 minutes in that game? And you can affect the opposition with where you stand, where you move, where you run. And what I like to do when we haven't got the ball, we want them to play the ball into certain areas. We want the ball to go into certain areas, and if we can force the opposition to play into those certain areas, we have control. You know, the really good teams don't play into that area, and they change it and do something a bit different and make it harder for you. In which case, you know, Folkestone on Saturday, you know, didn't always play into the areas we wanted them to. Sometimes they did, and it gave us a foothold in the game. Managed to score 3 goals against them. But ultimately, they got such good players. They worked it out, and they'd play into areas we didn't want them to play into, and caused us a lot of problems, and won the game and scored 5. So, when people talk about games, it's far more. You know, when you first said to me that stat, I said, were you looking at a game? Were we winning at half time? Were we losing at half time? Was it level at half time? Did we score in the first 20 minutes? Did they score in the first 20 minutes? Because all that has a relevance.
Has a bearing.
Absolutely. And late in a game, if you're losing, you gamble, you leave players up. They say cheating. Wingers don't recover, they stay high. It's not cheating, it's just you need a goal. So the best way, a lot of people think, to score a goal is just leave as many bodies up as you can.
We called it goal hanging when we were kids.
Yeah, that's it, goal hanging. But that's what they do, and so it changes the momentum again. So it's very, very difficult to play and sustain attacks when they're leaving 2 or 3 or 4 up, because every time they clear the ball, you're under pressure again. So you leave extra bodies back because you're winning 1-0 or whatever, and so consequently, it becomes more of their game. So it's all very, very different, and every game has to be judged by itself. What you can do is you when you look at it, you look at the overall stats. How many shots did you manage throughout the season? How many shots were on target? Where were the shots taken from? You know, we have specific areas we encourage teams to shoot from, because we know statistically it's far less likely to score, and we'll encourage them to shoot from there, and we'll try and force them into areas like that. But ultimately, so if we have 10 shots from there a game, I'm happy. It doesn't bother me, because the reality is they're very unlikely to score from there.
It was a relatively young squad last season. You must have been pleased with the development that we all saw throughout the season. Do you feel there's more to come from them? And I guess, are you hoping to be working with quite a few of them next season?
Yeah, I mean, 1 or 2 will stay. You know, I've just spoke to a lot of the players. I've got 2 more to see, and a lot of them had offers from other clubs. You know, other clubs have come in and put offers in, predominantly more than we can pay, and that's what you'd expect. They're good footballers, and we've developed them. We've worked hard with them. They all have options. Some will take them. Lorden last season had lots of options, but chose to stay with us. Lots of options and chose, and that's what we're hoping this season. And I won't know till June, but ultimately I'm hoping a majority. The majority have said they want to stay. But they just want to see what other options they get, which is fully understandable. I totally get that.
Rightly so. I do the same
absolutely.
thing. And May and June is always a bit of a strange period. We can't sign anybody anyway until July the 1st, and neither can anybody else.
No, and that's the thing with this. That, you know, the players will go away now. There'll be lots of, and what happens is a lot of clubs and a lot of managers, they'll phone 10 centre halves, knowing they only want 2. And they'll have phoned their A, B, C, D, E, and so on choice. And if they don't get their A, they'll go for the B. If they don't get the B, they go for the C. So a lot of players say, oh, well, such and such has phoned me. That's great, but you might be 6th choice on their list. You may not be number 1.
A lot of hedging going on.
Totally. Now, with the reality is, I don't tend to phone too many players this early in the season. You know, the reality is, I'll let the bigger boys compete and get what they want, and then we'll see what's left and what's affordable, and we'll go from there. And we've got some good players lined up, all being well. We've got a good squad, great development. You know, young Jess has come on leaps and bounds. Arthur, you know, towards the end of the season was playing very, very well. You know, Kenny, Tommy, you know, some really good players. Also, if we can keep them together, and we won't know until June, July. We'll have a good start to the season, no doubt. What's
on Mel Gwinnett's wish list? Apart from more budget.
It's difficult. With what we've got, just to put the best team out we can, and to put a team out there that the fans are going to come and want to see play. You know, we've got 2 very good forwards who are almost certainly going to stay with us next season, and to go into the season and really put a marker down that sort of says, right, difficult to beat again. We're going to try and be very compact and tough to play against, which we were this season. And the wish list is no injuries, or very few injuries with the small squad we've got, and that we can maximise what we have got. And you know, my thing every year, I say to the board every year, is you give me £1, I'll turn it into 2. So, you know, we sign a player on X amount of £100 a week. Then my job is to make him if it's 200, to make him a £400 player. If it's a £400 player, we sign to make him a £600 player. That's what we have to do. And the downside to that is we can lose them. But the positive to that is, while they're developing and progressing to that amount, we get a really good player. 6 months, 12 months, whatever is out of it, and that's ultimately what we'll try and do. So my wish is to keep turning £100 into 2.
Right. And the season's not quite over for some of the teams we played last year. It's an all Essex playoff final for the Isthmian Prem. Billericay at Brentwood. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I've got to be honest, I fancied Billericay in the playoffs from day one, once they got into there. I mean, I think the new management team have gone in and done a fantastic job. I mean, they've done the best job in this league. I think all credit to them. They've done a wonderful job and got the team to play, changed a lot of players, and done very, very well. So, you know, all credit to them. Brentwood have had a great season. I mean, they came up last season and done this season, sorry, and done very, very well. And you know, we played them our last home game of the season. You know, they're a good side. You know, they nicked it 1-0 here, and it wasn't nicked. I mean, it was end to end and very tight game, and they nicked it. But they're a good team and got some good players. So I think it'll be very, very tough for them to go away to Billericay. But what I would say is Brentwood have shown they've got some real steel about them, and I think it'll be an excellent game. And it's 2 of the teams, you know, in all leagues you get managers and coaches that you like the way they go about their job, you like the way they treat their players, you like the way they treat you and your players, and I've got to say they're 2 of the best groups of management we've come across. And you know, it's a shame they both can't go up. I'd like to see them both go up, but may the best team win on the day.
And next season, there's a few familiar faces with the A10 Classico back, Enfield Town, Eastbourne Borough, who you probably know from previous meetings, Malden and Tiptree, Three Bridges, possibly Leatherhead. I don't think it's all finalised yet, but some new faces coming in as well.
Yeah, and some big hitters. You know, you've got to. What I would say is my time in non-league, I came in about 3 or 4 seasons ago with Barnet, helped Barnet in step 1, then did Hampton in step 2 for 14-15 months, and then come here. So it's the last 3 seasons, 4 seasons. What I will say is the leagues year on year are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and I don't expect anything less next season. I know more than Tiptree. You know, they're really going for it, and they'll really go for it again next season. The league will be even tougher next season. It'll be a better league again next season, which I think is great. You know, we love I go to see good football, good players, and a fast-paced game, and you're going to see that next season it's going to be a very, very, very tough league. Step 3.
Some great entertainment for us at Theobald's Lane then.
Oh, I think it'd be brilliant. Hopefully it'll be from us predominantly, but you're going to get teams come here that are just going to be, off the scale like they were this year a little bit. Your Chatham's, big budgets and going for it, and all these teams that are going for it. It's hard work for everybody else, and it's great. It's what we want. We want the challenge.
That's the challenge.
The best footballers you can get, the best players on the pitch. That's what you want to see. My boys want to play against the best players they can play against. I want to coach against the best players and the best management teams I can. That's what we all want to do, and I think next season is going to be a fantastic league, and one that's going to be well worth watching.
There's one final question, Mel, and thanks very much on behalf of the club and the fans for a great entertaining season.
Thank you.
I've certainly enjoyed your Thursday night video briefings as well as your interviews, so thank you for those. What does Mel Gwinnett do in the summer?
Well, the first thing I try and do is go and spend 3 weeks in America with my son and my grandchildren and his wife, so Rafe and Emily, over there with Jane and Myla. So I go and spend 3 weeks over there, but even the 3 weeks over there will be spent, although we're 8 hours behind, when Rafe goes to his office in the morning, because Rafe runs a soccer academy over there. So when Rafe goes in his office, I'll go in the office. I'll be phoning players back here, trying to get players to agree to sign, speaking to various managers and various people about players and about systems and about whatever people want to chat about, really. So there's a lot of work goes on. We never really get to switch off. I remember last year when I was with Rafe, I was going and doing on average about 2 hours a day for the 3 weeks I was there with Rafe, and it'll be similar again this season. So it never stops. It just doesn't stop. Try and get some downtime. Try and get like I said, spend some time with the grandchildren. Silverstone's early July, so I've got my tickets for that already lined up. I like to go there every year. And of course the World Cup. Watch World Cup this year. So that'll definitely be on the agenda. That will definitely be on the agenda. Very little changes for me. I miss it. I'm already missing the coaching, and I get up in the morning. Normally Thursday morning, I get up and I sit down and I go through all my presentation, review it, look at the opposition again, watch another game for Saturday to give me any more detail. And I might, if we've got a game on the Tuesday, I might start prepping for that as well. Look at all the penalties from the opposition. And I normally do it on a Thursday morning. This morning I got up and I sort of walked down, sat in the office and thought, well, what am I going to do now? And I miss it. So what I now started doing is looking back every single set piece we face. I watch every single set piece, and I mark down first touch, whether the opposition has 6 in the box, 7 in the box, 2 in the box, and just get all the stats and all the data together, but proper data. So it's not off a computer or AI, it's actually watched. So, for example, if a corner goes straight out of play, AI will count that as a corner. I don't, because no one can win a first touch. No one can clear the ball because it's gone straight out of play. Yeah. Or if it's 95th minute and it's 1-0 and they get 2 or 3 corners because they keep playing it in the corner with two, I take those out because again they're a nonsense. They don't. But again, AI and that keep stats in, so it falsifies the stats a little bit. So it's very boring, but I enjoy it. So it makes me sad, maybe it makes me a bit of a nerd. I don't know, but I enjoy it. And when it comes to next season, it gives me an edge on my decision making with set pieces.
We'll look forward to seeing you next season, Stato.
Thanks very much. Cheers.